Hello, team. Welcome back to Process Podcast. In today's episode, I sit down with Tom Smith, founder and head coach of Strive Fitness, a coaching organization based in the UK in Leeds. But he has an interesting story because he's been on the road for the last 4 months, traveling around Asia, coaching his clients online. So, in this episode, we talk about his journey and how he got to fitness from law to the army to actually setting up his own company, the challenges and the great things about coaching and working remotely online. And we talk, of course, that buzzword all about hybrid training. Enjoy. Tom Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Haynes, thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Very well, very well. We got a good session in earlier.
We did get a good session in.
Thank you for letting me jump on that. It was good.
It's great to have you here. I mean, we've kind of known each other for quite a while. I think our conversations first started on social media.
Yeah.
I don't know how many moons ago. And then our paths intertwined when you joined the process programming from the Perform program. And then I think we've always just had a bit of back and forth because, we're both coaches and share a lot of similar thoughts on coaching in the industry. And then you ended up jumping on our very first cohort with the individual coaching course, which was awesome because I actually got to spend quite a bit of time with you on the calls and have a chat and get to know you better. And then now you're in Hong Kong, traveling the world.
Correct.
So what are you doing with life right now?
I am working completely remotely, online coaching, and traveling the world is pretty much that simple at the minute. Started in Australia, through Southeast Asia, now I'm here. That's pretty much my life right now. Technically homeless, as I discussed to you earlier.
Yeah.
Don't have a home anymore because I'm always on the move.
So do you actually not have a home back home?
No, because my parents have all moved to their relative locations, and I gave up my tenancy with my my housemate technically when I left. So yeah.
Did you
It's
know?
pretty cool. I quite like it.
Did you know that this was going to be something you were going to do at some point in life?
Yeah.
Did you know that you were going to go on the road and just go with the flow?
Yeah. So me and Grace, my other half, talked about it for years. We were meant to do it a long time ago before COVID, but then COVID happened, and it was that time when I started my coaching business. So once the whole COVID situation finally resolved, I was already doing this, sort of building what started. So there was never a good time to actually go because I was always in this process of building my business, taking on more one-to-one clients. And then how this came about was I filled my one-to-one books, 30 to 40 sessions on the gym floor. Then we looked at other avenues of generating more revenue. Online coaching is the natural next step. So then we spent 18 months, 2 years building this online business. And when I got to the end of that point, then there was not really any worse or better time to make the move to go on the move. Because a lot of my one-to-one clients were more experienced now, more competent on the gym floor, were able to move online. And I had a functioning business to do so as well. So
Tom, could you just quickly tell us what your business looks like?
yeah, sure. So me and my business partner, Mike, we own something called Strive, which is essentially one-to-one coaching in person and online and classes. And then it's a very big community-driven sort of coaching service. And that's really important, that community element, because that's the thing that sort of set us apart, especially within the area where we were operating in Leeds in the UK.
But you guys operate out of like a commercial gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is quite a unique model. I haven't seen number one, I haven't seen that many commercial gyms allow like external coaches to come in. I always thought that a lot of commercial gyms had their own coaching staff and coaching teams and personal trainers. So I think that's quite unique, but also the fact that you have kind of made that your home and have basically grown a business out of a commercial gym. Where did that whole concept come from?
So I think I've spoke about it on social media a lot, and we use the analogy of five-a-side football. When we sat down to think about what Strive needed to be, the problem that we identified in that commercial gym setting was it's cold, lacks community. There's people there, treadmills, headphones on, in, out. And we were saying, okay, well, we wanted to change that. We wanted to bring something to that commercial space that encouraged people to go because they wanted to, through like human connection, through friendship, through a means of like a competitive environment as well. So as I say, when we sat down and looked at Strive and how we were going to do it, I always drew comparisons from five-a-side football. People going into their 95s, buzzing to leave work to go play five-a-side with the friends afterwards. Why? Because the friends are there. It's competitive. It's fun, and there's no reason why the gym or fitness or the sport of fitness couldn't be the same as well in that setting. So that's essentially what we created. We brought together our clients, got them familiar with each other, created these classes and these community events that sat outside of the classes as well, social events, hikes, people playing paddle, going on like riding bikes and things like that. So then it was almost like organic. People just gelled and built friendships without our input just because we created the conditions to do so. And then that just sort of, yeah, snowballed.
In the gym, you train out of a pure gym, is that
Yeah.
right? So in pure gyms in the UK, do they allow external coaches to come in and train? Is that actually a part of their model?
Yeah, so their model works. There's two ways. You can either be employed by the gym,
Yeah.
and they pay you for your time to do classes and cleaning and things like that, and then that gives you opportunity to, and then you pay rent to run your business from there.
Got it.
That's what most people start out doing. Alternatively, you can just pay the rent.
Yeah, so it's like you pay a fixed fee every month,
Hmm.
and then basically you can run as many
Yeah.
classes and sessions as you want.
Well, the classes element is it's a bit of a grey area. We just sort of did it and then
They never
ask
stopped you.
questions later. Yeah, really.
Okay, cool. And so basically you got your business to a point where you're predominantly, because you got a business partner who's based in Leeds, he's running all the classes and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And that basically gave you the ability to actually kind of take your business on the road and do all your remote coaching from a laptop
Yeah,
around
pretty
the world.
much.
Okay, before I do want to dive into like what that's been like, because it's not an itch that I want to scratch, but I definitely think a lot of coaches at some point in time have had that like wonder of like, being on a beach in Bali, sitting on a laptop and, you know, sipping a bintang and coaching people on a laptop. And there was definitely a point in my life where I was maybe not being so successful in this space, feeling very frustrated with a lot of the things around me. I wasn't taking ownership of things in my life at that point in time. And like the allure of that, of just like throwing all this away and just starting again by myself on the beach was like, I was very, very close to just doing it. So I've always wondered what that's like. So I do want to talk about that in a bit. But I think before that, because I think you got a very interesting journey in terms of how you got into coaching. You put up a post recently basically introducing yourself on your social media page, basically saying, this is me and this is what my life has been. And if I remember correctly, well, firstly, you're a skate kid,
Hmm.
is how you define yourself, and then you get into the gym at like 17-ish years old, start lifting weights. You move into law,
Yep.
and then you go to the military, to the army.
Yeah, alongside the legal career at the same
Okay,
time.
and then after all that, you end up in coaching.
Hmm.
How was that accurate?
Pretty much.
Awesome. So start me at the 17-year-old Tom. Like, why did you first start lifting weights? What got you into it? By the way, the photo of you at 17, you're in better nick than I am now. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I've let myself go a bit to be fair. all
No,
the bin
so,
tag on the beach.
so tell me, like, how did like Tom entering the gym? How did that all start and why?
So I think I were in a similar situation to a lot of people in that my mate started doing it before me. Yeah, so he started going to the gym and it just got me into it. And my initial reason for going, as a lot of people when you're a teenager, is just to be more attractive to the opposite sex. That's it, to get girls.
Were you insecure about the way you looked before that?
I don't recall ever being insecure about it, but I recall if I was in better shape, I could probably have better opportunities.
Were you a big kid, small kid,
No, I was small. I was a small kid, but always really lean. Yeah.
late
So
bloomer, early bloomer?
yeah, probably late bloomer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, likewise. Do you think that had a part to play in it?
Potentially, potentially. But I've never really considered, like I said, I've never really considered being insecure. I always knew that I might do better if I was bigger.
What do you think? What do you think led you to believe in that?
And I think that's just what the natural male role model looks like in society, right? And it has done for forever. I remember, in fact, this might be interesting. I remember as a kid, I grew up watching Rocky. And when that's the sort of thing that you're watching and idolized, they look a particular way, right? Especially even in things like, I remember like wrestling and WWE when I was really young, and that's the male role model that's portrayed, and that's what people
How
look
old are
like.
you, Tom? How?
28.
So like, what era of WWE were you watching? Like,
Oh,
who are the big
how old,
dogs?
how old will I have been? So it'd have been in like the 2000s. So it'd have been like, would it have been The Rock?
Okay, yeah,
It might
yeah.
have been The
So
Rock
early
back
days of The
then.
Rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I was into WWE, but when it was WWF, so like before
Yeah.
they changed over. And I remember being dead. Like, so my dad used to come home and see me watch WWF, me and my brother, and he'd be like, "Why are you guys watching this shit? Like, it's not real. It's fake.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
acting." I'd be like, "It's 100% real. Like, this is not acting. This is like he just slammed a chair in his head and now he's bleeding. Like, nothing about this is acting." And like was dead set that this was like just a real brawl and fight. Anyway, it's not. But I was
Yeah.
very disillusioned for many years.
Have you watched it like in as an adult, and
I
now you're like, that's what they meant.
well, I actually watched WWF a live event.
Yeah.
They actually came to Hong Kong, and it was like Yokozuna was wrestling. Rocky Maivia wasn't the Rock. Owen Hart, Bret Hart, like the OG wrestlers, and we went. I think I must have been like 8, 9, or 10. I went in like full Bret the Hitman Hart
Yeah.
gear, had the belt, had the glasses. Yeah, I was like massive fan. But genuinely thought it was real.
Yeah, I think a lot of us did. But it's one of those, isn't it? That's what the typical male role model
Jacked,
often look
big.
like, especially in like cinema, Hollywood, wrestling, sport, whatever it might be. Often the people who are put on a pedestal are the ones who are most jacked.
Yeah.
Because it draws attention, right? It draws
Greek
eyes.
gods, like
Yeah.
in mythology, like Da Vinci times, like drawing the perfect human being, that perfect man. He's shredded.
Yeah.
That was mind. Yeah.
So yeah. That was likely subconsciously a driver.
Mm.
And I think it is for a lot of people.
So why law then? Like, why was it law that you got into?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little story. So in college, I studied law, business, and product design, and I initially applied for. You went to Newcastle Uni?
Yeah.
Is that right? I applied for Newcastle Uni for a course called urban planning based on the grades that I was predicted.
Hmm.
My A levels came through. And I did way better. I basically had a free pass to do whatever I wanted.
So you were too good for Newcastle, is what you're saying?
No, I'm too good for the course. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go and do that course.
Yeah.
So I started working for a year and I reapplied and I was going to do business because that's just what I did best in. And then during that time working, I was like, well, I'm earning money now. Don't want to go and be a student. So I just started looking for other opportunities, and there were a really new apprenticeship scheme that had just been launched by, I could butcher it, the SRA, which is like a regulatory body within law. So they launched something called the solicitor apprenticeship, and that was like a brand new alternative route into the legal world. Whereas before you had to go through uni and then do various different qualifying routes after that. This was brand new. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. Because I've been earning money anyway. I'd wanted to go, and I didn't really want to
What were you doing earning money? What was your job?
I was working for a tree surgeon. So I was just cutting down trees, dragging branches.
That was called tree surgeon.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty crazy name, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was doing, just labouring.
Yeah.
Just something to put me on until that next uni course was going to roll around. But by the time that came around, I was like, okay, cool, I've got this new opportunity. So I went through this this solicitor apprenticeship. That was around about 7 years worth of education, but I binned it off after 4 because I started the
Wait, the solicitor apprenticeship was 7 years.
Yeah.
If you'd have just done university all over again, it's because it's roughly about 7 years, isn't it? To
yeah,
become a
it's
qualified lawyer?
roughly around about the same time frame. However, the big caveat to that being that there's no if you go through the traditional route, there's often you get to a point where there's often maybe potentially a roadblock because you've got to apply for things like training contracts. Whereas this, it was all
Provided.
already through one company.
Got it.
Which is clever, really, because they're taking young people who have aspirations of having a career in law, putting them through an apprenticeship scheme, being able to pay them way less than a graduate. And at the end of that 7 years, you've got a lawyer molded to your business.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. It's smart. And there's something as well called, They introduced something called an apprenticeship levy, so big businesses had to put money aside to fund apprenticeship schemes, otherwise they'd lose it.
So what? How do you go from cutting down trees to like doing this? What was the driver for you?
So bridging the gap between my career in law. Initially started, I just was uninspired by that role, and I couldn't really see myself doing it forever. I needed to find new things. That's what the initial reason why I joined the army. Yeah, new opportunities, new
Well, hang on, we're not there yet. We're not jumping. We're not jumping to the army just yet. Okay, so
slow down.
okay, slow down, Tom. So cutting down trees didn't inspire you. You wanted more. We got into law.
Sorry, the cutting down trees was just to fill the gap
Got
whilst
it.
I was waiting for the next uni
Got
year
it.
to
Got it.
roll
Got it.
around.
Understood.
So I needed something to do. I couldn't
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sit around doing nothing.
Yeah.
So that was just to fill the gap.
Got it. Okay, I'm trying to learn like younger Tom and what's driving him. Like, is it money? Is it like what is it? Is it trying to still be more attractive to the opposite sex and find a mate? Like, what is the thing that's spurring you to like go down these routes?
Driving me to go down the routes.
As in like the law stuff, for example.
I think the I don't know what the driving factor would be for that specifically. I just know that that is something that I'd already studied. There's a level of familiarity with that.
Right. Okay. Got
Right.
it. Got it.
Similar with uni and applying for business. That's just what I was good at in college.
Hmm.
So I was just going down the route that I thought I could be successful in at the time.
Right. Continue with the army then.
So that was, like I said, that was just to find new opportunities, learn new skills, find new challenge. That sat alongside my other job in law. And going through that process was super impactful in terms of remolding perhaps my attitudes, my outlook on life. And as a result, I think it probably gave me the confidence to then move away from that job that I'd created or job that I'd been working in for years.
Why the army though? You could have done that, gotten that by doing 100 other things, but why pick the army?
It's exciting, it's challenging. A funny story, I actually I got like a tandem skydive bought for my birthday. I was like, that was great. I want to do that again. So
Jumping out of an airplane.
yeah, so that sort of played in my mind, where I was like, okay, well, I want to make a career change here, and I was like, okay, well, that looks pretty cool. Oh, parachute regiment, amazing. Let's go do that. But little did I know at the time, I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for, and that would never come to fruition. Um, but yeah, um, it was just a new way of finding challenge, something to broaden my horizons, because at that time I'd only really done dragging branches and working in an office.
And then how did you go from that to Strive Fitness? Like what's the bridge there? Was there something that stopped you pursuing like life in the army, or was the intention never to go and spend a whole career in the army?
No, no. So when I was there in the army, I was enjoying doing something that was more physical.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then that got me thinking. There's different roles within the army itself. Could I be a PTI in the army potentially? So I started looking at PT qualifications outside, found one, and then I was running through that PT qualification alongside both of those jobs. And by the time all of this had finished, so I'd finished my training with the army, I was still working in my other job, I'd finished my PT qualification. That's when sort of COVID hit and the whole world got flipped upside down, right? So at that time, I was a qualified PT. I could pretty much do anything. I was working less. I weren't in the office anymore. I was working less. I was working from home. So essentially, I had more free time. So I could invest that time into starting to try and build this PT business thing. Didn't really know what I was doing. I started just building online. And then once I got a couple of online clients, I was like, okay, cool. Now I can probably reduce some hours at my other job. Yeah, I can probably sort of start to wind that down as that increases. So as I was winding that down, spending less time there, I could afford to go out now, put some kit in the back of my car, go to local parks or whatever and PT people outside. And then that just sort of that as that grew, I reduced the amount of time I work at my other one, and then eventually just transitioned across because they were both working equally financially. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode with a quick shout out to our sponsors, Today Well Spent. I've been using this journal for 2 years and it has made a massive impact on my physical, but mostly my mental well-being. It is a guided journal backed by neuro and behavioral science, which I actually didn't know at the time. It has questions for you to answer at the start of the day, at the end of the day, end of every week, end of every month. And it's brought so much self-awareness to me of the things that positively and negatively impact my life. So if you're someone who cares about your physical and your mental well-being, which I think you do because you listen to this podcast, then go and grab yourself a Today Well Spent. Use the discount code THEPROCESS, one word in capitals, to get your discount. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about starting as a PT because I think there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast. Maybe there's people who work in the corporate world, or they're just doing jobs that they don't feel fulfilled in, and they invest a lot of time, energy, and finances into probably their health and fitness. I actually speak to people online all the time who are kind of at this crossroads where they're like, I'm not fulfilled in my current career, and I think I could really do a good job in the coaching space. But I think there's two parts to it. Number one, it's terrifying, leaving what's comfortable and what pays the bills and what you've always known into something that potentially, especially if you're self-employed, like is now not going to potentially pay the bills at all, and you're entering unfamiliar territory. But then also just like, how does one go about starting something like that? Like, how did you say that you picked up your first few clients and then you had three, then you had four, but how did you get your first few clients? So what did you do to get your first clients?
I think getting your first clients are probably the hardest ones to get, but the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit is just asking your friends and family. They're there, they trust you. You've already got a level of buy-in to that.
Yeah.
You don't need to build a report. It's already a hot lead, as you would describe. And then once you've got a few friends and family, even if you have to do it for free, all that's going to give you is material to market with, and that's what you need at the end of the day. You need people talking about you, saying your name. You need proof that you know what you're doing, proof that the work that you're doing with this person actually gets a result. And then once you've got that proof, then that's your opportunity to go to the world and be like, look, what I'm doing.
I can do it.
Works.
So
Who
where were
else
you,
wants to do this?
what were your channels of marketing yourself?
Well, when I first started,
Yeah.
it was purely through Instagram, and that's where I think most people start these days anyway, through social media.
Yeah.
It's a free platform to market through. Even things like Facebook community groups, like certain areas, like in Leeds, they have like an LS2, like a postcode group where people are. You can go in there and you can post, look, I'm doing free sessions at this park, yada yada, at this time, come down, build rapport with that person, capture their details, have a follow-up, have some form of lead magnet after that to snowball the process of getting to know that person a little bit more. And I think just the more people you talk to, the more relationships you build, the easier it ultimately ends up being. I think a lot of PTs struggle with that because they don't actually have those conversations. I think you just need to say hello and smile to people a little bit more, especially if you're on the gym floor in a commercial setting.
I mean, I actually think you got some skills that outside of just the learning how to speak to people and build a relationship, but actually like the lead magnet, the sales funnel, the fact that you had something in place where, you're capturing information and then there's a process, maybe even if it wasn't a formal process, might just be like sending a message or an email. I think that is actually a massive missing step that even PTs now don't explore and capitalize on. I think a lot of PTs and coaches feel that, sending almost a cold call or a cold message is like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there and I'm just going to be annoying them and disrupting them. But I mean, that's what every other industry has done so well, and it's just basically called sales, and it's an essential part of building almost every business. So the fact that I think you were already cognitive of that, and obviously had some skills, and did you pick those skills up in, I don't know, other jobs and the things you were doing before, or where did that come from?
I think it's interesting when you mentioned earlier about people wondering whether they should change careers or move careers. I think those people are at a distinct advantage over people who've never had a role in a professional environment. Little things like knowing how to articulate, knowing how to have a conversation on the phone, knowing how to write like an email that's professional and is worded correctly. I think the skills that you develop working in that environment transfer really well over to this, because a lot of people lack those skills, especially if you're coming in at 18 years old and you've never had a job like other than this one, and that you've gone straight for your PT qualification. Those people skills and those admin skills, essentially, they're important to the functioning of your PT business,
Yeah.
as with any business. And I think those are really important, and those are people should lean into that as an advantage,
as a strength.
yeah, 100%. Especially with like the whole conversation piece, because that's where everything starts, right? You've got to find out a person's name, say hello, yeah, and if you can remember that person's name every time you speak to them, make them feel valued, yeah, make them feel like seen. Well, who are they going to go to when they decide that they want help in the gym?
Yeah.
You, because you've built rapport with that person already. And with the whole lead generation thing, or the way I thought about it is, you've got to look at it long term, because that first interaction with a person might not come to fruition now, next week, in a month. It might be 6 months down the line,
Yeah.
when they realize that they need help or their life circumstances change, that you're going to be the first person they think of, because they know you and you've built a relationship with them. You've got to think about things long term, especially when it comes to lead generation.
Yeah. It's like delayed gratification.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah. It's being a good person, creating a connection without necessarily the intention of the sale now. But yeah, I think that we've talked about it lots of times in this podcast, just how many times someone needs to see something before they even think about making a purchasing decision. And then when they get to that point of thinking about making a purchasing decision, it's a lot more to go from thinking about a purchasing decision to actually making a purchasing decision, which is why I think, social media is such a powerful tool, but it's repetition of the same things over and over again, and not being disheartened when that one post goes out and you get 5 likes and no shares. But knowing that you still had 5 people look at that thing, and there's been 5 people that have appreciated what you put out there, and those 5 people might be the ones that in one day, like you said, they might be at a different point in life, or you're now offering something that really speaks to them or solves one of their pains, that you might be the person they come to.
Yeah. I think I think new PTs, and I am speaking about this in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
And I was definitely in the position where I would just take any leads that would come in, just for business. But in hindsight, you want that process to be a long time. Doesn't seem like it, but you do. You want to warm that lead up as much as possible, because when they're in your business, you want them to be engaged with the program. You want them to adhere to it, because you want them to get a result, because that is the thing that you're going to use to market to bring more people in. If you were given a load of cold leads, people you never spoke to before, let's say 50% of them don't adhere to the program, that's dead wood within in your business. They're bringing in money, but they're not giving anything back for you to market with, to build from. So you want those hot leads, you want those people who are going to be engaged, and it's almost like a cycle.
Yeah.
Great lead, you enjoy working with them, they get a great service, great result, they're happy, they give material for you to bring more people in, and that system just works over and over and over again.
Love it. I'm trying to think back to when I started my business. I didn't have social media. Facebook had just started maybe like a couple of years before, so there was no Instagram, and Facebook was more of like a social networking page. I don't think they had like forums, and events weren't a thing yet, even pages, and can't remember what they're called on Facebook. That's how little I go on it. But I basically started with a website, and the only way to get visibility on a website was basically search engine optimization, which is still a thing now, right? How can you basically get your website higher up on the Google ranks? And so it basically became a game where it was like, okay, I'm not even ready to coach yet, but I'm going to play the website game first. And so basically created my own website with one of my good mates who I went to school with, who basically got into web design. He gave me a massive discount. One of my mates designed me a logo on Adobe Illustrator, and I basically started writing blogs about just I'm not even a PT yet. Like, I've just got my certification to actually start coaching people. I don't really know anything, so I just start talking about. I mean, I did things talking about like nutrition and carbohydrates, and like I look back on it now, I'm like, that's awful advice. I talked about like like med ball power circuits on how to get strong with just a med ball. And yeah, so I would watch my website like slowly climb up the Google rankings when I would type in personal training Hong Kong. And so I think I got to like, this is before sponsored ads, but I got like in the top about
Yeah.
3 to 4 before I even like really hit like go live on the website. And then I remember just basically putting the website out there and just sitting at home being like, just looking at my phone, basically waiting for it to ring. But I got a call on day one, and like it was around 3 4 p.m. at night, and I remember just being just so stoked.
We've made it.
Yeah, come on, I can't believe I got a client, and I'm like, putting on the professional voice. But it's interesting because when I started, I didn't have the professional background. I'd done work experience every summer in different organizations. I'd done, a few months in a bank doing work experience, worked for rugby union, worked for a sports clothing company for a couple of months. But, I really went into it almost as a fresh graduate out of university. I'm lucky to have like mum and dad to basically give me guidance on, my accounting book was like genuinely a little black book that I would just write in every day. I printed receipts. I would like have one receipt for me, one receipt for the client, one receipt that goes in the folder. And so like it'd be a 3-ply piece of paper. Um, but yeah, the learning curve in that first 3 to 4 months of running a business was more than 4 years of university. It was pretty amazing.
It's always a learning curve. I think one of my friends who used to actually manage the Pure Gym, he says it all the time. Nobody's Dan Q. I'll mention him just in case he listens. He's like, nobody's got it figured out.
Yeah.
We're all just winging it. We're all just trying to figure out what works. And it's true. Like that's how no matter how much it looks like someone's got it figured out or made up, it's just not the case. We're all just winging it in a way.
Yeah. And all different stages of our
Yeah,
journeys.
of course.
Okay, so you go from personal training, coaching in person, you're building up this community and this client base at the gym, your gym in Leeds at Pure Gym. Um, the idea to take everything online and travel, was that scary? Was that easy?
It was probably the hardest part of my like personal training journey so far. And that's through it's just this anxiety of is everyone going to leave? When I start to have these difficult conversations with people, is everyone going to be like, nah, I'm not interested in that. But I had those difficult conversations, and these were way in advance. It wasn't like, I'm going, see ya, you're going online. It was more of a, okay, in fact, I was in a really fortunate position that my clients are great. Like, the friends, they're super understanding, and a lot of them have been with me years. So a lot of them were in a position where they could go online because
They had autonomy, they
they've got
know
this
how to, yeah.
independence in the gym. So I was, like I say, I was fortunate. But those conversations, if anyone's watching this thinking about doing the same thing, those conversations needed to start way in advance.
How far in advance are we talking?
I did 12 weeks in advance. I
Mm.
was like, this is what's going to be happening. These are the options. This is what I think would be perfect for you. And it's never a conversation of I'm going, you're off online. It's more of a conversation of you're doing great. You would be suitable for online now because you've got this independence and you don't really need this anymore to get to where you need to be. That's how the conversation needs to go. Because ultimately, if I would, and I always said this I was completely transparent. I would never put somebody online who wasn't suitable for going online.
Mm.
Because in my opinion, you've always got to act in the best interest of that client, regardless if it's bringing revenue into your business. If it's not right for the person, then refer on or give them something that is appropriate. So when I was sat down and I was looking at my client list and I was like, okay, these people probably aren't suitable for online. We need to, is the space elsewhere in the business for them? Can Mighty take them on? If that was the case, great. But 95% of the people I've been working with, I said as soon as I told them like, yeah, cool, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying.
Awesome.
Yeah, and and that's what I mean about them being great because we've built this relationship. And some people always question like, why have you got clients who've been with you 3 4 years? And it's not that they can't go away and do it by themselves. They could, but goals evolve, goals change
Mm.
over time. As people want to pursue different things, more challenging things, then it's creating that plan, obviously plan for them to do so. So yeah, those conversations need to start well in advance. It needs to be full transparency, full honesty, and those conversations really molded how my online business looks now. I don't have like a typical process of like checking in with the like checking forms, but like how many
Yeah.
steps did you do? How did you find it? I don't have one. If my check-ins are okay, we'll jump on Zoom and we'll talk for as long as we need to. I'll ask you all these questions, but it's a conversation. Yeah, it's a conversation about how your week went, what you struggled with, how was your sleep. Let's have a look at your food. Were you stressed at work this week? And we use all that information to forge out the next week look in line with what the overarching goal of the program is. So as a result of those conversations, figuring out what each client actually needs in terms of support from an online perspective was really valuable. Because that molded, okay, well, this is how the service then ultimately needs to look from or how the service needs to be adjusted to facilitate those people moving online.
Did you have a framework to follow when you went from in-person coaching to online, or did you just think, right, I'm just going to figure this out as I go and kind of
No,
create
so
your own
we've worked
system?
with we've worked with a series of business mentors over the years, and when we've got our books full and we were moving online, we just called in help. We're like, we need help doing this. We want to make it good. We need to know what systems and gather some ideas and how to manage people online. Yeah, so we used a business mentor to get that online. Matt Optimize, Matt Peacock. It's really good.
And
Um,
what were some of the biggest takeaways that you took from that? Like, if there's words of wisdom that you'd be open to sharing, like, what were some of the things that you learned from Matt that basically allowed you to successfully transition business online?
so what we didn't have in place that was the biggest thing that had the big impact point, like a client management system outside of the programming software, a system where we call it the lab, where they onboard through that. So all of the RQs, initial questionnaires, yada yada, they onboard themselves through it. All their initial onboarding education is on there. So it's almost like and he uses it brilliantly. It's like a red carpet into your business.
Mm.
So that person, as soon as they click pay, get access to this, and they onboard straight through, like, shit, well, this is going to be great because this is what I've received so far. And it's that client management system that really sort of, I was like, wow, this is going to really set us apart and just make our life a lot easier. And it did. Um, so that was the big takeaway, having something in place.
What have you got an app that you use for that, or software that
Yeah,
you?
it's called Notion.
Yeah,
You heard of it?
yeah, I
I know a
use
lot of
it.
people. Yeah, so we built. I can show you it later. To be fair, we built out our members lab in there. It's really really good. Happy with it.
Awesome. Continue. Yep. So basically, the red carpet process, basically creating a CRM to onboard people as efficiently and as
Mhm.
automated as possible. What else?
Um, like I said, my check-in process it evolved away from how like the typical check-in process was. Like I've just said, the check-in form, I don't do that anymore. I have a in that case manage or client management system. Each client has a file, and in that file, whenever we have a chat, I will like transcribe it. I'll write up all the notes and figure out the strategy for the week going forward, in which we agree on for them to go away and action. I just find it works better because that client isn't then getting to their Sunday and be like, oh, I've got that check-in form to do. I can't remember like how I felt on this day or whatever like that, and it
Yeah.
feels almost like a task for them. Whereas when you jump in on a call, it's like, oh hi, how you doing? You had a good week? Like what how did things go? And some weeks people are going to want to open up and tell you how the week went and what the problem was, and sometimes people are like, okay, well, yeah, it was great week, numbers look good, feel great, happy days. There you go. That's a 3 minute conversation. They're happy, I'm happy, brilliant. So it's much more fluid depending on the client really sort of drives how that check-in process should and needs to look. And it really just sets us up for the next week so we're both aligned. And I think that's the key, that alignment. So you're both on the same page going into that next week, which I think can be easily missed when you don't actually have that in-depth or
Yeah.
potential to have that in-depth conversation with a client every week. And there's drawbacks to it, can take way longer, but it depends how what you value in your business.
Yeah.
I would
What
rather spend
impact
the
you want?
extra time talking to my clients for as long as is needed than just for them to submit a form and not get any like that one-to-one time that they actually need.
So is this call happening on a weekly basis? It might be 3 minutes. It might be a 1 hour
Yeah, so
conversation.
we block out like 30 minutes generally for each client. Some are shorter, some are longer. Some are a weekly basis, some are a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah.
It just depends on what that person needs. And they might go to a bi-weekly basis, some might need more regular check-ins, and that's absolutely fine, right? What support does that person need to get them from A to B? And that's going to change over time. I think that's the important thing to consider. Um, and I've actually got a post going out on this tomorrow. But like what you need right now is different to what you'll need in a year's time. So that needs to change
Yeah.
as that client develops. The level of support needs to change as the client develops and creates some independence. There might be times in that client's life where they're super stressed out and they need more support. So then you might have to increase the amount of time that you're working with, the contact time in a given week. But it's one of those, once you've built those relationships with clients to that sort of magnitude, they're the people who'll stick with you for a long time, and they'll give you the material that you need to market and continue to grow your business because you've invested time at the front end.
Did you think? Okay, basically, this question is like expectation versus reality.
Mhm.
So the idea of like being on the road, traveling around Asia, and living your dream in that sense, and just coaching people online. The expectation of what you thought that was going to be like versus what it's actually like. Are those two things pretty close, or are they completely different?
Um, I'd say they're pretty different in that I thought I had it all figured out before I got on the plane. I put in the work at the front, like I said, at the front end. I had the conversations, and then once we came away, and I've mentioned this numerous times, I felt like there's all these different hats that I was wearing. There's my coaching hat, my marketing hat, admin hat, my relationship hat, my traveling hat, my training hat, my health hat. And then it's like, what you should do is put one on, be focused, take it off, do the next one. I felt like I was wearing all my hats all at once. I was available all the time. I was so paranoid about things not working that I'd be working every day rather than sectioning off my time to when is necessary. And then that was pulling away from my training, pulling away from my relationships, pulling away from my enjoyment of the actual traveling, because everything fell into this melting pot of trying to do everything and achieving nothing. So I had to take a step back, and I was like, this is just not working, because I felt the initial thing, I felt this disconnect from my clients and from my business. I would getting messages from people, and I was like, normally I'd be like, I know that I know what's going on in that person's life. Yes, I know why that's the problem.
Mm.
But I was like, can't remember what's going on. I need to check my file. I need to check the notes and go back through it. And that was the turning point for me. I was like, I'm just not present in that particular thing. Whether it's in my check-ins, whether it's in my coaching, I need to do something about it. So it was just a matter of sectioning my time in a given week and being strict with it. So for example, Sundays and Mondays, I don't do anything but work. We don't travel. We don't do any sightseeing. I don't go anywhere other than sit in a coffee shop or anywhere there's a desk, and I will be there for 12 hours just working 2.5-ish days a week. And what that allows me to do is go away and actually be present with that thing that I'm working on at that given time. Once I've done that, take the hat off, put the other hat on, and get on with what it is that I'm doing. And it works way better. I get messages from clients now, and they know I don't need to respond right away. But when I open it, I'm like, I remember the conversation that we had. I don't always need to go back to the notes, but I do anyway. But you're more involved with your business again, and that was the biggest sort of turning point for me.
And did you have to set clear boundaries with the clients? Like, okay, listen, I was previously checking in every single day, but now the check-ins are going to take place on these days. You can expect to hear from me in this many hours, or is that still open and fluid?
No, so that's all still open and fluid. They can message me whenever they want, essentially. But you're right, whether I reply right away or whether I wait until my work time is,
Mm.
that's different. And they're aware of that. And if it is urgent, I can see if it's urgent. But it's never that urgent that it can't wait, right? It's not like life or death situation that we're in. However, like I said before, my client, we've got clear boundaries with clients, and they're super understanding and they're super independent as well. Um, so yeah.
Tell me about some of the other challenges that you've experienced with the online coaching. So one is basically boundaries and being deeply present in the
hmm
things that you're doing. Was there anything else?
Um, yeah, I think I'm a big believer of almost like walking the walk, leading by example. And I think being on the move and training at the same time comes with its challenges because you don't know where you're going to be. Well, you know where you're going to be, but you don't always have access to the same gym, same equipment, etc. So being fluid with that and picking like basic KPIs to try and hit each week within my own given training, whether it's like to certain amounts of volume with certain muscle groups. That's been a challenge from that perspective, given that not I didn't want people to think I weren't leading by example by not training and that I'd binned it off, but I am in fact here and trying to showcase that I am still training on the move. And I suppose that relates to clients who are busy anyway. Yeah, so clients who are busy and their life happens, all these things that can derail their progress. How can I say that I can help that person if I can't adjust as well? So that's been a tricky one, sort of figuring out how to take care of my own health and fitness and lead by example whilst on the move. That's been quite challenging, but I think there's definitely ways around it. You've just got to. I found that I need to train first thing in the day. Otherwise, there's too many variables involved that can derail it.
Yeah,
get it done out the way first thing, then it's done.
And what are some of those training KPIs right now? Like, what are some of the things that you want to make sure you hit every week?
I always make sure I'm either doing a squat or a bench press every week for my main strength bits.
Squat or bench?
Squat and bench.
And bench.
Yeah, squat
Nice.
and bench. So I neglected benching for years. I didn't neglect it. I did it, but I didn't really focus on it. I was like, that's embarrassing. So I need to bring that up. So that's why I've been working on that.
You just massively outbenched me today on the incline. So if you're saying your pressing strength is embarrassing, I don't know if there's a word for me.
So yeah, the bench and the squat, they're the two strength components that I want to develop.
Yeah.
I make sure I do at least one easy aerobic session a week. I make sure I do at least some hard conditioning each week, mostly just running. But the hard thing about running in anywhere in Southeast Asia is there's dogs everywhere, so I just get chased by dogs everywhere. So that brings its challenges in itself. So yeah, just main strength movements, bench press, squat, both heavy movements, and then just some vertical pushing and vertical horizontal pulling, bodybuilding, 8 to 15 reps, pushing close to failure, accessory stuff, biceps, triceps, quads, hammies, calves, just the usual bodybuilding style stuff, trying to hit somewhere between 6 and 12 hard sets-ish per muscle group per week.
Yeah, nice.
Which is pretty easy to do when you lay it out like that.
Yeah, so there's no specific structure, just long as within roughly a 7-day window, you're kind of touching on everything.
I normally just do would do a full body resistance style session. Then if I only get in the gym once a week for whatever reason, at least you tick some boxes.
Nice. And have you noticed have you noticed your strength levels? How long have you been traveling for now?
4 months.
Have you noticed strength levels, body composition, fitness? Have you noticed any drastic differences?
I'd say my fitness has probably taken the biggest hit, but primarily because the amount of volume of running I was doing before I came away was high, because I was prepping for a marathon just before I came. So going from that to running once, twice a week with super low volume, it's gonna take a hit, which is fine.
Yeah,
I'm not mad about that. I actually got stronger on the bench, but that goes back to what I was just saying. I neglected it for a long time. So as soon as I started putting some effort into it, I'm actually strongest on the bench I've been in a long time, ever. My squat is probably the same in terms of strength. I've not really made any progress, but it's not really gone anywhere, which I'm happy about. Body composition wise, like I said to you earlier, I'm probably a little bit fluffier, a little bit fatter, mostly through just less control over. I've got control over my diet, but it's mostly you're eating out all the time.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit less conditioning every single week, but I'm not mad about it. It's one of those. It's super fluid. I'm not overly bothered with how I look right now.
Yeah.
It's not a priority. Priority is maintaining or developing as much strength or maintaining as possible, and just ticking over my conditioning until I get onto some steady ground where we can push towards the next goals, whatever that might be.
And okay, so I want to talk about your running. And you did an Ironman, was it last year?
Yeah.
Full Ironman, full distance.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that motivation come from? And also, like, massive congratulations, a massive,
Thank you.
massive achievement that not a lot of people can say they completed a full Ironman.
No, it was pretty rough, to be fair. So Matty was actually my motivation, my business partner. He did one in Bolton in the UK, and I went and watched him and spotted. I was like,
Where did
this
you do yours?
Switzerland. It's
Switzerland
fucking
versus
beautiful.
Bolton, mate. You've won that one.
He did it as well, to be fair. But I went and watched it, and I was like, this is fucking sick.
What
This
was
is
sick about it?
such a good event. Like, it's just huge. Everything, like the crowds, the support's massive. The event, like the logo, it's all garish. It's like it's crazy. The start line, they play this like ominous music, and everyone's like clapping their hands. You just feel like a bit of a beast, to be
Yeah.
fair. And it's good fun. It was different. One of the biggest, weirdly, the second thing that tipped me over the edge to do it was I couldn't swim before. I was in school in year 4. It's where kids learn at school to swim.
Yeah.
Back at home, and I was the only kid in my year to fail his Dolphin 4. Dolphins are like levels; they go up to 10. And from that point, from what, like 8, I never really swam. So I was like, okay, cool. This is gonna give me a reason to pick up some life skills here. So I was like, cool, sign up, let's do
So
it.
you basically went from like not really being able to swim to actually doing a full Ironman. You didn't start with a half.
No, just went straight in with the Ironman. Um, the
No,
sub
I think I've seen some of your swimming clips. Like you look like a really confident swimmer now.
I'm slow.
Yeah.
I'm
Are you
fucking
buoyant?
slow.
Do you float?
I've got quite, like, on my body, my hips and my legs are probably like the biggest thing. So when I'm swimming, they just sink. So I wear
Okay.
buoyancy
That makes me
shorts.
oh
You
right.
get buoyant, like neoprene shorts that you wear in the pool, and it just raises your hips a little bit. And without them, I'm slow. I'm so slow. With them, I'm like a normal, like, old lady pace. But yeah,
I think I'm the same as you. Like my hips and my feet just sink. So to
just
stay
drag.
to stay streamlined on the surface, I find it really hard. And I've worked with a swim coach. Like I always talk about my knees, but there was a point in time when my knee was really bad, where I couldn't do like assault biking, running, rowing. So I was like, right, I'll dedicate the next 16 weeks to just trying to get as good at swimming as possible. And so I hired a coach, and she was like, wow, you actually can't float. I was like, no, like, am I doing something wrong? Maybe like there's a breathing thing, because she would just sit there and like literally like a duck on water, just floating so effortlessly when she's talking to you. I'm like, right, is it like actually just something wrong with me? Like maybe I've got to practice some
Yeah,
breathing techniques, or I need to get oxygen in my legs or something. And like we tried everything, and she's like, you just don't float. Like I literally, my feet drop so fast.
Maybe get these buoyancy shorts.
Yeah,
They're a game
that's a
changer.
good hack.
But just find some open water, swimming that, put a
I
wetsuit on,
much prefer open water.
because
Yeah,
you just float
the
on top.
salt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Where were we?
So Iron Man. So the reason I wanted to ask about the Iron Man is because right now there is this big movement in the fitness world. I think Hyrox has been a big contributor to this as well. But people getting into like the combination of strength training and specifically running. I think CrossFit was probably like the first, not the first, but a big influence on people combining the two, right? Strength training, getting strong, being powerful, and being enduring. And they had obviously their own set of tests to allow you to like validate just how fit and how strong you were. And then now there's this the movement towards basically people doing this to get good at high rocks. You've got to be a great runner. You've got to be strong enough to do the movements. But it seems like the rise of run clubs, commercial gyms being fully equipped and functional spaces with barbells, lifting platforms, rigs, etc. And then, loads of gyms pivoting into this area, basically doing strength training and some form of conditioning, whether it's HIIT or like erg-based work, which is kind of, I think, a bit more of a new thing, more recent thing. You've been doing this for quite a long time. I feel like this has been, ever since at least I've known you, you've had an interest in like lifting and running specifically. Where has that come from? Or was Iron Man a big influence in your running stuff?
So I did most of my running initially through the army, because that's just, if you think about what a soldier is, they're probably the original hybrid athlete without even realizing, because what they are training for is they've got to be strong to be robust. They've got to be super enduring, right? They've got to be moving for a long period of time, carrying kit. So that's where I ran as like cross country in primary school, like when I was like really small. But since then, that's when I sort of like picked it up again. So So that influence is kind of where it sort of weaved into my own training more when I started PTing and started um, even like when I was on LPC and I was doing more CrossFit, I was still doing elements of running, but mostly just because I enjoyed it
Yeah.
through where I'd be. And then like as I sort of ventured more and more into running towards like sort of longer distances and marathons, I was like, okay, well, this sort of ultra endurance, like longer distance stuff is pretty cool as well. Like, how far can we take that? And then obviously I sort of dropped the skill component of CrossFit, a lot of the technical components, and just focused on just the strength elements, absolute strength elements to squat, the bench, the dead, and bodybuilding, and then running alongside of that. And that's what you could essentially coin, like quote unquote hybrid, which is interesting because I'm going to ask you a question soon. I'm going to ask you if you can define hybrid training, hybrid fitness, because I think that's the question mark in the industry. Everyone has a definition, but no one really knows.
Is there have you got an answer? Don't give me the answer,
Got
but
some
have you got one?
ideas?
Got some ideas? Okay, because we did a whole episode on the hybrid
Oh,
athlete,
really?
and it ended up me, because basically the episode turned into Chris actually saying, I want to now like get into I think he wanted to run a half marathon or a marathon, and he wanted to be strong. So basically the whole episode turned into me programming for Chris. And so we did an assessment on him and basically wrote it out. But I think the episode started with, how do you define a hybrid athlete? So I'm trying to think back to what I even said. But I would say that, and I think my definition might have changed. I think my definition then was really around like lift run. But I think when I think about a hybrid athlete, I think what I would say is that someone who can express fitness in at both ends of the spectrum. So you've got endurance, and then you've got, I guess, like strength, speed, power on the opposite. As to what disciplines they are doing, I don't know if hybrid has a definition. I think in this day and age, most people will think of hybrid as probably more of your powerlifting movements, your squats, deads, presses, and pulls, and what numbers you can lift versus running metrics, 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. So I think, yeah, the hybrid athlete for me is if someone excelled at being a hybrid athlete, they have high levels of endurance, specifically in the run, but could also be in other disciplines, and they're able to express high levels of absolute strength. That would be my definition. Yours?
Two or more non-complementary training goals, which is super broad.
So you're saying it's goal related. What makes one a hybrid athlete now? So, for example, I could have done marathons my whole life, but if right now the thing that I'm just focusing on is trying to improve my squat and I'm not doing anything else, that would not technically make me a hybrid athlete.
I would say you're not doing hybrid training.
Okay.
Because it sort of ties in what you just said. It's okay, top end absolute strength. What doesn't complement that? Endurance. Like longer endurance work. Those two things as modalities don't complement each other.
Yeah.
In fact, they should take away. If you do either too much of, if you do too much volume of either one, it's going to take from the other.
Yes.
And it's that distinction between those two. And then when we look at other things, other ways that people coin in like the term hybrid training or fitness, a lot of people are going down the route of looking at athletic qualities. Okay, what qualities do we have for speed? What qualities do we have for strength, speed, or power? What qualities do we have for absolute strength? Then what qualities do we have for basically strength continuum, strength endurance, and then what qualities do we have for just endurance? And if you can pinpoint across those, like, okay, well, if we're looking at all those different qualities, then what do you have? Like basically CrossFit.
Yeah.
Really, don't you? So it's I don't know how to define, like, have a true definition of it, or but the clear distinction between the two. That's how I would be looking at it. Non-complementary training goals.
I like that.
And then this is where the whole Hyrox thing becomes questionable, because is it really hybrid training? Because with it being one race,
yeah,
is your strength work non-complementary to your running in that mode in that sport?
Yeah.
Or is it complementary because you need a good level of absolute strength to push the sled? You need a good level of strength endurance to move the sled for the distance that you're trying to cover, but you also need to be able to run or work at threshold for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Are they complementary or non-complementary? You probably argue that they were complementary.
I think I would argue it depends on who the person is.
But yeah, fair
Okay,
point.
so for example, if you have someone who is an endurance athlete who has very low levels of absolute strength, they've done no resistance training in the past, for them to excel at a high rocks race, they're going to have to create a bias towards strength training while still probably maintaining their levels of endurance. So for those people, they're going to have much more of a strength bias to be able to get to the minimum strength prerequisite to move the sled for most people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for most people, the sled is probably the only like absolute strength endurance type test that there is in a high rocks race. Of course, if you can't, okay, for some people, the lunges, they're doing 100 meters in one rep maxes almost.
Yeah,
There's
fair.
people who are doing wall balls in like sets of fives, but I still wouldn't class that as an absolute strength modality. The farmers carry no, the rest is really all monostructural stuff. So yeah, I would definitely say that someone coming into it for the first time with no resistance training background might fit your definition a little bit more of hybrid. But if I was to do it, then for me it's 100% an endurance. It's an endurance test, which means that my training is going to be very much endurance based. If I wanted to think about the longevity of me as a human being if I wanted to do more high roxes, then I would keep absolute strength in there because I know that the knock-on effect of me neglecting it and just going all in the endurance, I think there's going to be negative impacts. But that's me with more of a health conscious approach versus trying to be the best athlete as possible. Thoughts?
I like it. I didn't think about the individual variance of like a person's athletic qualities.
Yeah.
But I think either way, like however, what doesn't really matter what title we decide to give it. All we people in the industry do is take different types of training and then try and like piece them together.
Systemize it
Yeah,
and create a way to get people better at it.
yeah, exactly.
I just think that right now, because gym and training is something that so many people do, especially in younger populations, trying to define what you do to give yourself a label that makes you unique, I think people have to look for words, right? And as a CrossFit, it's really easy. I do CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, cool, say no more. I know the kind of crazy shit that you're probably doing in your gym. And then, okay, I'm a high roxer. I don't know if it's really like gotten to a point yet, because a high roxer, I mean, it's you got the elite 15, right, who are doing this genuinely as a livelihood, like their career exists around it. For me, that's a high roxer. But then I guess you can say the same argument for people who say I'm a CrossFitter and I just do it, 3-4 days a week recreationally. But I think more and more now, like people are associating that their sport is high rocks. That has been an evolution. So yeah, I see like the hybrid thing. It's basically the people who resonate with the kind of goals of what CrossFit was trying to achieve, but they don't do CrossFit. So what bucket do they fall in? And what if they're not doing high rocks? I mean, all I'm saying is I can understand where the label has come from, but it is a little bit ambiguous.
And I think the labels, in a way, they are useful because, especially when it comes to people want to categorize themselves as
What it actually does when it comes to like building a relationship with someone, which is basically what we're always trying to do when we meet someone new, we're trying to find common ground, right? And if we can find common ground, the relationship instantly bumps up a level. And if you can give yourself, a term that summarizes who you are really quickly, then you're ultimately just speeding up the relationship building process by skipping over like my training, I'm doing a little bit of this on Tuesdays, and then on Wednesdays I could go in the gym and I do it, and Thursdays I'm doing this. It's like, oh, I'm a hybrid guy, or I like hybrid training. Definitely, like, it's a hot word right now though.
Yeah.
And I think, from a marketing standpoint, if you're a coach who has an interest in working with people in the endurance space and resistance like I do, is what really got me so interested in CrossFit and is why I've loved it for so long, then, using that as a marketing term, because it is, that and high rocks are probably the two words that in our space are probably getting, would you agree? Like getting thrown around more than anything
Yeah,
right now.
100%.
And, if you start, and I've seen a lot of coaches and gyms throw those two words into their methodologies and their offerings, and like it sells. Like right now, it really does sell. Just like in 2013, 14, CrossFit sold massively. You say that word, and it has like this. It piques an interest or an excitement, or the opposite, probably more these days, like a repulsion, which is like, yeah, okay, you're one of those. Get away from me. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, cool.
Nice, Tom. What does the future hold for you?
Who knows? Who knows? I
Was
think
was this whole travel thing like really a take it day by day type thing?
in a way,
It's pretty cool. I'm quite envious of that because I've
yeah.
never done it.
I mean, it's good, but I think as humans, we like a level of certainty to what's going on in our lives. And whilst it's quite exciting, obviously it is in a way anxiety inducing. But I'm super grateful to be in this position. Um, I say it to Grace all the time. So I sometimes look around and be like, "This is our life." Like I'll might be working or whatever, and then we might go for a walk through a park somewhere. Like this morning when we were, what's it called?
Victoria Park.
Victoria Park, walking through there, and we're like with a coffee, sunshine in hand, coming to train with you guys. We're like, this is our life. Like 6 months ago, she was grooming, she dog grooming, she loved it, but we were in the UK winter, miserable, and now this is what we're doing. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm very grateful, but also yeah, anxiety induced about what's next. That's natural because of the uncertainty.
Yeah. Okay, Tom, closing tradition on this podcast. We ask every new guest to describe their perfect day. Interested to hear what yours is, given what the last 4 months of your life has looked like.
I would get up early,
How early?
sunrise, wherever I am, and I would run. Not something mental, 10K, something like that. And then I'd grab coffee on the way back, get Grace to come meet me, walk down the beach, grab breakfast, brunch, whatever it might be. Then what would I want to do after that? Because
That's already a very good start to
that's
the
a
day, though.
pretty good. Yeah, how could you can't really top your start of your day when that's it. I like the beach, man. I do. I like the beach. Oh, here's an alternative one. In the UK, when it's winter, horrible, snowy, going for a walk, hiking in the snow, and finding a pub at the end, fire burning, and a nice cold pint of Guinness.
Hang on.
That is a good day.
Okay, listen. So your perfect day, yes, you're starting on a beach and you're running, having a coffee.
Two different kinds of days.
No, the question wasn't designed two perfect days, but okay, so right, so
Yeah, so that's
you
I'm
transport now.
not flying in between the days.
You're transporting to, or are you running in the snow in the morning as well?
Right, so we'll go with the second one.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
starting in the cold.
Yeah, we're starting the cold.
Interesting.
See, they're both good.
Yeah,
You
they
need-
got good in different ways.
and maybe being in fitness shouldn't promote Guinness, but it's the official sports drink of Strive.
There you go.
Yeah, it's good.
Is that it? Is that the local sponsor?
Yeah, but we'll go with that one. Snow, hike, pub, fire, crisp pint of Guinness, bed.
That sounds awesome. Tom, this has been fantastic. Where can people find out more about you and get in touch with you?
Instagram is where I do all my marketing. Tom_Strive.
Do people think your name is Tom Strive, by the way?
Yeah, they think me and Matty are brothers.
Yeah, for a long time, I thought your name was Tom Strive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Tom Smith.
You look like a Tom Strive, by the way.
Super common name.
Yeah.
Maybe I should change it to Tom Strive.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Tom, this has been great. It's been really nice to spend time with you, not just now, but today as well, after having, engaged with you online for so long and seen your profile and seen your journey. And I think I hope you take this as a compliment, but I'd like to say that the person you are in real life is the same guy that I see online, which I think is a fantastic trait and quality to have, because it means you're putting out a really authentic version of yourself. So you
Well,
just keep on doing what you're doing.
thank you. Well, thank you